Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series. It is time for the final match of Group C for Cool. Because it's been a cool group, right, Kev?
Yeah, it's been very fast, especially compared to last Sunday when I think we went to 3 p.m. So it was one of the longest broadcasts I think we've ever had, or 4 p.m. it was at one
about
point.
4:30 we finished because the game couldn't end due to the...
That too. We did catch the tail end, by the way, of that, and you guys predicted it would end in the next 30 seconds, and you guys were right. It was Drunken Boy last week who got the job done. But I'm excited for it. Obviously, you could say that this group played out in a pretty obvious way, and I can also imagine a lot of Americans are joining us right now and probably missed that first series of the day because that started at 6 a.m. I think, between Clem and Lambo. It was a surprising best of 3. I really did not expect it to play out like that. It was a best of 3 that I would almost say is very uncharacteristic for Lambo, because Lambo looked almost hopeless in it. And not that he just got outplayed from the beginning to the end. It just felt like, no, zero things went his way, zero momentum was built, fell behind just off the back of some really good harass by Clem. I'm not expecting the same best of 3. I do think that Clem can, of course, take it, don't get me wrong, but I honestly think he's going to have to work a lot harder for it, because I know that Lambo is definitely not going to roll over like that twice. There's no way.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? Because we've seen 4 different builds from Clem today against Zerg. He had his Battlecruiser rush into bio that he did on Thunderbird, which is the map that we're starting with against Lambo, again for the rematch. But also, he had his very normal, a little bit more greedy build that he did in the second game versus Lambo. And going back to the Cyril series, we saw him break out that mech play, which actually looked fantastic. It was just that Cyril was too good for it to actually win him the game. So let's see, maybe he decides to pull some of that shenaniganery here in the decider. In the bottom right, we have the red Terran player. He is Clem.
Once again, we're going to kick things off on Thunderbird, just like we did in our very first best of 3 of the day. That was, of course, the game where Clem opened up with his Battlecruiser. Let's see if this man is going to have a much better best of 3, this time representing Clash. It is Lambo. Like I said before, Lambo, of course, had an exit in the group stage of Challenger last season. Now, that's one of those things that it could happen, but you don't really want that to happen 2 challenges in a row. Now, I cannot say this often enough that I do think anybody qualifying for the European Challenger, that is already an achievement in and by itself, because on average, you have like 30, 35 really competitive players that are all hoping and dreaming of qualifying, and there is always like 1 or 2 surprises. Then, of course, like the first 8 to 10 players, we kind of expect certain names to pretty much always make it, and they do. But the fact that Lambo's always here, that is already telling. Clem, of course, had an interesting year so far. Like, it's almost, it feels like a while ago, so we forget about it. But, of course, we started this year off with WCS Winter, which was a little different than what we normally do.
Right.
And it was basically a very big version of Challenger with 32 players. And somehow Clem did not make it into that tournament. That was one of the biggest surprises of them all. Everybody thought that Clem was easily going to qualify for a tournament where you have 32 of the best European players. But it didn't happen. And obviously he's like, all right, I'm going to make sure that never happens again. And he qualified through the ladder, I believe, in the second season. And this time he just qualified because Clem is really, really good. So obviously wants to erase that memory of Winter. And I think we can kind of move past it by now because he's been looking good over the last few months.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that we talk about, right, is how hard it is, especially in Europe. There are so many good players in the European StarCraft region. North America has kind of generally been a bit on the weaker side, especially since a lot of like the big offline tournaments that used to happen. We haven't seen, we're past the days of the big MLG open brackets, kind of drawing everybody from all over. And we've gotten a lot of fresh faces recently because of that, which has made our games a bit weird, a bit interesting, still very NA. But Clem is here. We're out with that Reaper doing the poking, and that SCV Scout blocking the third. So even if there was a drone that somehow slipped around, it would not be able to pop the hatch.
Of course, one of the reasons why I think NA is a little bit weaker than Europe as well is, of course, the fact that Latin America has their own qualifier as well and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
If you would put players like Special and Cham in these qualifiers as well of North America, then I think the level will go up tremendously. Clem is doing the same thing as he's been doing all day, guys, and that is just trying to be annoying, trying to delay this expand. I love that little skirmish we saw in the previous game on King's Cove, where he almost got the heli in multiple times. It's no eBay block this time. I guess he kind of knew that they were going to be links. And I guess Lambo would just never settle for any other base than this one on this map.
Yep, and Queen's not quite in position there, so being able to grab a drone would be huge in this position, but not able to do it just yet. But you know what? There's still some value to be gained. He's still forcing a little bit of micro out of the Hellions. Ooh, careful with that rally, mate. He's going to go into Cloak Banshee behind this, which we haven't seen from him yet today, so I like it. Continuing to mix things up is Clem. But he saw that there was no like fast Roach Horn, no fast Baneling Nest, no fast Lair. All very, very important things to be aware of.
So we know that Lambo likes his double Evo style. We know that he loves to get up to a very high drone count, you know, basically 80 plus, and at that point just spam never-ending waves of Lings and Banes if he would go up against the bio play here. What I would wonder about, Nate, is if he ever sends a couple of drones to the bottom side of the map and eventually mine out those minerals, because for that style, it's obviously incredibly important that he can do run by after run by after run by, but we all know how difficult it is to achieve that on Thunderbird. Would be super cool to see him somewhere in this game squeeze 2 drones to the bottom side of the map and mine away those minerals.
Yeah, that's a big, big window, big door that you can open for the attack.
Armory, by the way.
Overlord seems to be aware of everything. Yeah, he saw the armory. He still sees it. And his Baneling Nest is not late this game, so he should be able to get the Banelings out in time. The armory is going to finish right after the Bane Nest, so he should be able to get Banelings. He should be able to defend this.
Kind of like this. Once again, the Banshee, I think, is kind of pulling the Queens out of position. This opens an opportunity for these Hellions, perhaps. I'm not sure if he's going to go for it, though. He might be a little bit scared, and so far, Clem is indeed. Maybe scared is not the right word, but he wants to be careful, and I can get behind that. You don't just want to run away or throw away your 8 Hellions and then be super vulnerable to almost every counterattack in the book.
Yeah, Queens are just little too good versus Banshees for them to get too much done in that situation, especially just the single one poking. Hold position to Queen on the Spore, and 8 range keeps them at bay. So the Hellions are going to turn, the Hellbats are going to transform back into Hellions and kind of stick to the harass. Yeah, he's not going to be able to get anything done with Hellbats here. We've got Banelings as well, so the Banshees are going to try to poke, and Hellions will just try to deny creep spread while he gets his engineering base in 3rd CC.
Yeah, this is very ambitious what Clem is doing, because he's spreading the Banshees out as well, so he's not going to one-shot workers, but he's basically trying to create a tiny bit of chaos everywhere. But I do feel it's time that a couple of drones start going down, Nate. Like, we saw how successful Clem was with his openings in that first Vessel 3 of the day. In Game 1, obviously, the Battle Cruiser got a lot of drone kills. In Game 2, the Hellions did a tremendous amount of damage.
This is exactly why, though. This is why the Battle Cruiser was so strong, because it can kind of go in, take those hits. Banshees, well, they're pretty fragile. They don't have any armor at all, so the Queens do their full DPS against them, and it makes the Banshee very, very weak, really, unless you blindside your opponent without detection.
If you talk about cleaning up your play, I think it's safe to say that Lambo already has a much better first 6-7 minutes of this game than he had in the other 2 games combined.
He didn't lose 10+ drones in the first few minutes. No, you're right.
And those Queens are looking healthy. You can start spreading the creep. The Hydra then is slapped down as well. Somewhere in the main base, I believe it is. Let's take a look. I guess it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah, it is next to his Evo chambers. Clem is going to try to be annoying. And I do like this, trying to keep these rocks alive, because we know that these massive 4-base pushes can be pretty terrifying to deal with if you're a Zerg. And if the rocks are still up, that can just kind of give Terran all the time in the world to get the ideal setup, right? Space out the tanks a little bit, and then maybe start spreading your Marines, kind of a pre-split before the battle. And Lambo's like, nope, I'm having none of that. He's going to start working on these rocks.
This is nice, though. Getting rid of the Queen, also delaying the creep spread coming that way is it's a good little bit of a grab, but send the Banshee home. It's got 5 health. If Queen breathes on it, it's going to die.
The work account, though, Nate, that's like the one thing that I've been keeping an eye on in this game. And the other games, Lambo was just struggling, losing drones left, right, and center. This game, just a steady rise to 80 workers, and that's where he wants to be. He's going to make a few more drones. And this is, like I said, I would have loved to see him have randomly 2 drones on the bottom side of the map and mine away those mineral patches. I think that would be really sick, and there's no way Clem would see that coming either, because he has no vision of it. For now, Clem obviously not getting anything done against the Queens and the Lings and the Banes. Come on, Lambo, give us some cool plays. That's what this map is made for.
And we have the factory, second one being added, as he's going to go into his big Marine tank play. But the upgrade's been looking pretty good. Eric, he kind of indecisive there, by the way, with the range attack. He starts range, cancels it, goes back into +2 melee. Careful with those medevacs. Gets the pickup.
He got a Queen there. I actually didn't expect him to get a Queen with all the Lings and Banes nearby. But well done there by Clem. But these are all minor victories. In the previous games, he was getting major victories here and there. And so far, this is a little skirmish. But Lambo's looking good this game. Already working towards that hive now. We know that eventually he'd love to get Ultras. And of course, those Adreno Glands, Nate. And I know you're a big fan of these Marines. They seem like they're in a dire spot. So they're going to be forced to disengage as well.
Well,
it just feels a lot better to me. Everything that Lambo is showing us this game feels so much better than the first best of 3 of the day.
You said it best, Kev. It's a lot more clean. I like that. Cloaks, uncloaks. It's like, well, yeah, the Overseer's right there, so being invisible doesn't help me a whole lot. I'm playing around where these minerals are to cover room for the drops, but the Overlord spread is great too. You know, I don't think we ever even had like the no Viking at the start to even try and do that. Of course, by this point in the game, we usually don't see it as a factor anymore, but that coverage is really nice. We have 2 tanks being built at a time by Clem, but with how big this map is and with how much creep spread there is, it's going to be very hard for him to push with tanks, especially before Vipers are out like that. I don't even think that's possible anymore.
Yeah, I know it seems lame when we talk about the small things like creep threat over and over again, but that's just kind of what we have to focus on right now, right? No major battles are happening, so they're kind of battling over position or potential position when Clem actually wants to move out. But that's also a very big contrast to those previous games we saw. We saw Clem doing a phenomenal job in pushing back the creep left, right, and center in that first best of 3 of the day. And here, yeah, he's getting a couple tumors here and there, but Lambo's immediately there to renew them. Here is our very, very big push, but there are 3 Vipers on the way, like you said, Nate.
That's right. Those Vipers are going to be one of the most important things. Now, Lambo does have a ginormous army, and because of the drops, like the supply is a little bit spread out for Clem. So it's also possible that Lambo goes for a monstrous attack with this, and that's what, like I was saying, if the Vipers get blinding clouds, Clem is just going to die super, super hard. But gets a queen there, gets some of the creep tumors.
I'm actually doing a pretty good job right now, right? In finding a couple of little victories here and there.
Yeah.
Got some damage done on the right top side. This Banshee was annoying, picked off a couple of Banes as well. And take a look at the tank positioning here. I mean, a single blinding cloud is not going to save the day. You're absolutely going to need multiple blinding clouds.
Needs to move him forward, though, as part of the thing. Is his main army's moving a little bit slow. He's actually stimming a lot.
Oh my goodness, no, not another stim, not another stim, Clem.
Could abduct those too into the Hydras, potentially.
Well, one blinding cloud is probably going to land on the tanks in the back. That is exactly what Lambo does. I mean, that bio was super, super overstimmed. Clem just not thinking that Lambo was ever going to engage into that, but Lambo's like, nope, I will. If you don't have enough Marines here, I absolutely will. There is a double drop on the top side of the map doing a little bit of damage, and this base at 9 o'clock got sniped as well. So it wasn't all bad news for Clem, but that's a lot of tanks to lose.
Yeah, that base gets killed as well. The command center almost killed at the same time that he was building, but it does manage to finish. He'll have to repair it immediately and actually go for the Hydralisk Den. Would be a cool grab. Okay, gets that. It's going to bounce back towards the bottom base, and wow, trading hefty blows here, Roddy.
I mean, but there are Ultras on the way now, and I see nothing but Marines and Marauders being produced. Normally, as a Terran player, you want to have something a little more feisty on the way. A couple of Liberators with advanced ballistics would be awesome. Down the line, obviously, I'm sure that Clem would love some goals. Right now, he simply does not have the money, the economy, to go into units like that. Losing all of the tanks, I really feel was a massive blow that I'm just not sure if little Clem can recover from.
That's going to be very, very hard. We have anabolic synthesis being added, and he's just having a really hard time punching through where the Ultralisk position is. I agree with you. Liberators would be nice. It was a pretty big grab for the bases that he killed.
Yep, that is the one thing that absolutely went wrong.
Income's about dead even as well, but like, yeah, the Ultras are going to come out and the tanks are here, sure, great, but Blinding Cloud is probably going to become a factor again as well if he needs it. There you go.
It's kind of an awkward fight though by Lambo, right? It felt like his Ultras were blocked a little bit by the Lynx. He does land a couple of Blinding Clouds, and once again a few tanks do go down. The HP on these Ultras is actually still very high, and it forces these bios to run all the way back into the natural. Man, these Ultras, do they ever go down, Nate?
No, they do not. They have that Ultralisk. They have the speed upgrade. Like, it's so easy for them to close the gap. And the bio has stimmed so hard. Look, Medevacs.
Oh, that Blinding Cloud is so good. So good. Pushing the bio into this Ultra as well. And these Ultras, I mean, finally they're starting to run a little lower.
Liberator helps too, yeah. Liberator comes out and deals a walloping pack of damage, but he gets the Lings into the third base during all of this. More Lings are going to stream across the map. Marauders, not known for their proficiency at killing Zerglings.
Okay, a couple of Marines, do chase down that Viper, and that's nice, but 33 SCVs went down during all of this. And don't forget, he obviously lost the base before this as well. Painful for Clem, just really, really painful. Would have been awesome to have a couple of those lips a little bit quicker. And it didn't even feel like that was the best engagement initially by Lambo, but he's like, I'm an Ultra, I'm big, and I'll just keep on going forward. And it pushed the bio all the way back into the natural of Clem.
That speed upgrade on the Ultralisk is huge. Like, that was It's one of the biggest things that's been added, just being able to push a Terran with Ultralisks. You never used to be able to do that. Like, you just kite forever with Marines and Marauders, and you'd be able to deal with a lot of Ultralisks just off creep. And since you can no longer do that in the same way, it's Lambo's really able to take advantage of the opportunity when he kills the tanks to get the rest of the army and make those big pushes.
Lambo does still have to be a little bit careful as well, right? Obviously, I think this game is looking really good, and I do love this round. It's going to force all of this bio to be picked up, but a few units were left behind. I won't say because Lambo's not as rich as maybe you would love to be, but he does have the units. He does still have quite a few Ultras. He's got a few more Blinding Clouds as well. This could be it, unless Clem has the hold of a lifetime.
Yeah, he's bit adventurous with this attack, but we talked about resources and money. The 4th was mining for Clem, so he was able to get good income there. He's starting to fight the Ultras isolated with the Marines and Marauders, and he's killed a couple of the Ultras, but I think it comes down to as well, the Vipers are still there, the Blinding Clouds, and Clem has been stimming crazy hard. His medevacs have had no energy because he's been constantly fighting and attacking nonstop. Makes it very hard to heal. More and more SCVs are going to drop. He's sub 35 workers at the moment.
Yep, 20 more SCVs went down there. GG, Lambo strikes back, and this time he will take the lead in the best of 3 between these two. In just a much better game by Lambo. Just so clean. Went up to 80 drones. What did you lose up to that point? 1, 2 drones? Compare that to the first best of 3 of the day. That is a world of difference.
That battlecruiser had 11 kills at the start of game 1 for the first series, and then the Hellions got 18 drones when they ran by on Kairos Junction. So we can see that Lambo certainly can go toe-to-toe with Clem if he doesn't take that huge early damage. Goes a little bit back to what I was talking about with the strength of Terran in this matchup is the variety of openers that you have. So if you can catch your opponent off guard, if you can get into a good position like that, then you can really cement an early lead versus Zerg. But if it flops, like it did in this game, it's really hard to recover from. Like, I'm just not as much of a fan of Banshees versus Zerg these days because I feel like so much of the harass, a lot of Zergs use Queens to defend against already, and you usually have a Spore or a Lair so that you have the detection. It just feels like unless you do something a little bit more aggressive, like Innovation's old like 2-star Port Banshee with like speed follow-up, they just have a really hard time generating that value. Of course, if the Zerg player is being aggressive at all on their side, like if they want to do a Ravager attack or a Roach attack, then the Banshees are incredible on the defense, but he just really wasn't able to get a whole lot done. And then there were Banelings, so the Hellbat attack was never going to be successful either.
He also felt a little more hesitant to me in this game, at least not the best of 3, because we're not done yet, but in this game he felt a little more hesitant, a little more passive. Well, maybe in the first series of the day, it's like, well, it's the opening match, there's still a lower bracket to fall back to, and you can play a little more freely, and he was more adventurous in my opinion, and just felt a little more decisive. Here you could see early on, I feel like if you do have 2 Cloak Banshees and 8 Hellions, I do think you gotta try. I think you really gotta go in. Obviously, it's scary. You don't exactly always know what's happening in the natural of the Zerg. You don't know if Banelings are ready already, or if Lynx will suddenly swarm your Hellions. But I feel like if this was the opening match, he probably would have just gone for it and see what he would have gotten done. And I think at one point, a lot of the Queens were way out of position.
There was a window right when the Baneling nest finished where instead of turning into Hellbats, he could have just suicided into the natural and just, if he had killed the drones there, then
I think you get at least 10. Now, of course, it is still scary to lose 8 Hellions because you lose all map presence. I absolutely get behind all of that.
But I think the map is actually, to your point as well, it's so big that it would be hard for him to just counterattack with Banelings either.
We'll see if we can see some more of that Clem magic here in Game 2. The magic that he showed us in his first best of 3, because we know that he's capable of it. I think these are just 2 very evenly matched players. This is actually their very first, other than this morning of course, official encounter in 2019, which I was a bit surprised by. Now obviously I'm sure that they meet each other on the ladder quite often, because they ladder a lot and they're both pretty much often or almost always in the top 10. Clem right now a little bit below it, but you know how the Terrans go, Nay. Sometimes they run into a few too many Protosses, they lose a little bit of MMR, but they'll get it back from the Zergs.
Yes, they will. And we have Clem going for that gas before barracks, much like his opening against Lambo when they played earlier today. So they played actually the same 2 maps.
Yeah.
So
I think this is a map in general that works a little bit better for Clem. and his style, because he often does make those big pushes right around the fourth base. And even if he doesn't get the fourth base, it's important that he gets a good trade, that he gets out of there with a couple of important units. I mean, obviously the previous game was long, so I don't want to pinpoint it on a single moment. But the moment he lost those 7, 8 tanks in the middle of the map for almost nothing, because yes, he did have 20+ Marines there, guys, but he stimmed, what was it, 3-4 times?
3 or 4 times. And he only had 2 medevacs because he had 2 double drops. So 4 of his medevacs, with Marines, of course, were around that 4th base, that 3rd base. So with all the stimming that he was doing, he couldn't heal at all. Those 2 medevacs were working overtime, and he wasn't paying overtime.
Yeah. I love what he was trying to do, because like sometimes it feels like there is so much focus on the massive army in the middle of the map. And they are trying to harass somewhere, but then it's always like kind of a lackluster drop, right? It's like 3-4 Marines, and eventually a Queen and 8 Lings will take care of it. But it felt like the way he was spreading out his forces, he was getting some serious damage done, and it really caused a lot of trouble for Lambo, and a lot of concern, I think, as well, because you gotta respect those double drops. You can't just send a couple of Lings and think it will be okay. But it's, of course, important to babysit your main army a little bit as well in the middle of the map. And I think Clem just got a little carried away, hit that stim button a few too many times, and suddenly those 7 or 8 tanks that were pretty beautifully positioned.
So he hides the drone on this base. So the SCV went to that north position. And this is interesting to me because I feel like we're seeing a little bit of a pattern that he showed with. He made that really big push, right, and shut down that 4th base super easily. But Lambo goes straight to the other base this game, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to take that one because I know the SCV wants to block this one. So he won't have the 3rd delayed in the same way. Gets the creep tumor and escapes with the Reaper. Very well done.
Nice little snipe there by Clem.
Yes. Very good. Because of how far that base is away, you know, just being able to do the little pokes. But creep spread is it's a little bit like a snowball going down a hill, right, Kev? It's over time, it gets very big, so stopping it early is really important.
And it's one of those little momentum boosters as well. It's like, yeah, playing well. This is good. Excellent start. He knows that the game is not going to be won or lost by that creep tumor, but like we said, it's often about the little victories here and there that just build up a little bit of confidence. First 2 Hellions are about to show up. Just curious to see if Clem can get some damage done, but I guess even if he doesn't get it, I think on this map it would be a little more acceptable, because there is that potential very scary push at the 4th base, and this is where I think it's obviously going to be very important for Lambo to start working on those rocks near his potential fort as quickly as possible, because you can't just focus on what's happening right now. You need to think 2, 3, 4 minutes ahead into the future as well, and that is going to be a thing for sure.
Yes, it will. So the creep tumors finally get to pop, but he can't rotate over to that base as easily, right? And okay, so he's going to get the armory again. He did open with a Viking, but it's going to be a medevac this time.
Yeah, so this time I guess he's really going to commit with the Hellbats and fight and try to heal them up a little bit, right? I would also love to see him drop Hellions in the main base, even though that's hard to hide, of course, against the Zerg. But I feel like Lambo in general, defense is quite greedy. And now obviously that's important, guys. You want to be as greedy as possible as Zerg. That's what being Zerg is all about. But it does really feel there is potential for Clem.
Yes, it does. So the Baneling Nest is ready, however, and that becomes a huge factor in this game. Does he anticipate Hellbats? Is he going to build Banelings preemptively? The follow-up is Cloak Banshee, but it's going to hit really, really late. So it's not like it's going to be a factor for this fight. He's only going to be able to work with the medevac and the Hellions and the Hellbats potentially that he would have regardless. So the Viking kills the Overlords, leading the air pathway to the main, which, as you mentioned earlier, Kev, makes me think of that medevac drop. There is one Overlord, but he'll see it as it comes in. He's not going to spot it across the map. So it's maybe turn into Hellbats. He can fight head-to-head, but no, he's going to try and drop the main base, use the Hellbats up front, and see how many drones he can get inside the main.
Yeah, the Viking goes down, you can say that's perhaps a tiny bit sloppy, but as long as he stays active with these Hellions and he doesn't lose them, and Clem does not lose them, the main base is very exposed. Why would you do that? Why would you just...
I don't like that.
No.
The Hellbat, like, he's not...
There's nothing here, mate. Like, if you just have Hellions here, you drive around and you roast
a Queen, which is nice, but, like, these Hellbats all die. Ooh, okay, actually, good spread at the last second there. 2 of them surviving is quite nice, because the reinforcements are going to be able to transform, and maybe this starts to look a little bit better. The 2 Hellbats go to the south side of Lambo's main, while the medevac brings the other 2 to the natural. So he's actually starting to make something of this now, because the Banelings are all dead.
And don't forget,
he hasn't really gotten drones just yet. Oh, this could be... Oh, come on, go, go, go. Oh. Okay, that's
well, he still gets a couple of really good shots, and there is still a Banshee as well. I guess the good thing about this, with how long it's been going on, is that right now Lambo is obviously not ready to deal with this Cloak Banshee, and that's kind of the power of the Hellbats.
That's a sick gamble, but 18 drones killed, and honestly, a lot of things look like they were in a really good place for Lambo. I was right with you, Kev, where like if you just use the Hellions and focus down the drones, but I guess the Hellbats, because he was able to kill the Queen, since he was just so distracted dealing with all of the attacks. Very nice.
I still think if we want to be really picky, I think he could do both. I think he could drop 4 Hellions, chase down the drones, get 1 or 2 volleys off, and then morph them into Hellbats. And I think it's pretty much the same effect.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing there for Clem to defend, obviously his decision making, is that went on for a while. If you just like have regular Hellions, if they get surrounded, or even like, you know, Queen and a drone and they trap a couple, it can get shut down a little bit quicker. Obviously Clem wanted to create chaos that would last for a little while, because that would buy time for the Banshee to show up, and obviously that Banshee was very successful as well. So it made sense, but maybe he could have gotten even a tiny bit more, but hey, it worked out and it was pretty damn awesome.
Lambo gets a brief respite because Clem's got to get some upgrades going. He is going to be playing mech this game, that battle mech style, and it takes a little bit of time to get up what he needs, but I love this. He's like, I'm just going to throw my Hellbats at you because I feel like you're probably building a lot of drones, and unless you have Banelings already done, you're in trouble. And you know what? You know what he definitely doesn't have is Baneling speed. So even if he did have Banelings, which he doesn't,
Lambo is just getting beat up over here. It just feels like he has almost nothing, right? No, he doesn't have a forward base.
He's got 9 Banelings that are on the way, but these Hellbats, you spread these out, there's not enough Lings, I think, to even kill the follow-up.
And the Banshees can come back and probably start working on the 3rd hatchery that's already quite low on HP. I mean, sure, the Banes do connect a little bit, but really good job there by Clem spreading it out. If he's using the Banshees during all of this, by the way, I think he could have picked off that hatch as well, but I mean, this is already a tremendous game so far by Clem. Look at the supplies. He's up in workers. He's up in army supply.
I'm looking at it. So Magfield Accelerator is about to finish, and then we're going to see those Cyclones start to truck through the bases. If he's able to get to that hatchery, he's going to be able to kill it very, very quickly.
And one of the most painful things here, I think, for Lambo is because he keeps losing his fort base over and over again. He doesn't have the larva that he normally has, so he can't even really spend his money. He's floating 1,000 minerals. How is he going to clean up all these Hellions and Cyclones? I don't think it's going to happen.
GG, Clem ties it up 1-1. Very good recovery from him after less than ideal start to this best of 3, but really trading blows, and I was happy we got to see that.
Yep.
Not just the opening and the way that he made that Hellbat drop work with the Hellbat frontal assault and the Banshee, but the mech follow-up, I think, I liked that control that he had versus Cyril so much, and it might sound silly, but it's like, well, Nathan, it didn't really work versus Cyril. I'm like, nothing should work versus Cyril, but if it looks that good against him, if he goes to the 25-minute mark against Cyril, well, you're probably going to do pretty well against any other Zerg that you're going to run up against as well. Although, that being said, he secured the lead before the Cyclones were even started.
I think the Cyclones were a nice touch there in the end, and that obviously is where he won the game. But I think he won the game before that, like being able to deny the fort base over and over again. And talked about it a couple of times on Thunderbird. I really don't like any TVZ where a Zerg player can go up to 80 drones and it's like, yeah, that's okay because I'm macroing as well. It's like, I feel like Zerg builds work is so quick. Like, yeah, mules are great and building SCVs non-stop is great, but 12 drones at a time is also great. And that's where Lambo wants to get. And I think you can really see it here. If Clem just puts a little more priority in finding an opening, obviously this game he was a lot more committed than he was in the previous one. I do get that. But I just love seeing a little more gung-ho style, the little YOLO. Just throw it out there and try to get some damage done. Of course, it can fall flat on its face, but more often than not, you'll get something, and at least you force out a lot of units. So you can't just, you were not letting them just sit there, drone, 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 which is what these Zergs want to do. I thought it was a really strong game by Clem, and I do want to add that obviously all these guys are good when it comes to multitasking and microing, and it's always silly to praise one player, but I do feel that's something that Clem maybe excels at a tiny bit. I think he's really good at having like multiple skirmishes around the map and then getting value out of all 2-3 army groups that he has. Seen it before, I see it in his TVPs as well. That's how he loves to play. It's not about that big army in the middle of the map, no, it's about a couple of fights, and yeah, he did phenomenal there.
Yeah, very, very well done. And following the ancient words of wisdom, Clem, there, you'll never know if you don't go. So taking advantage of that opportunity, saying, I'm just going to attack. And the Banelings weren't ready. The Queens were not actually, the Queens weren't microed very well. Lambo was trying to put out fires everywhere, and Clem was able to make it happen. So Kings Cove is going to finish off Group C for Europe. It'll be the last map that we play. This was the map where we saw that incredibly back and forth on the map game between Cyril and Clem. Where I thought Clem did a great job, but just wasn't ever able to open up the opportunity to actually attack Cyril, which is more to Cyril's credit than it is to Clem making mistakes, because Clem had the army, his Hellions dealt with the Swarmos really well, he had the Liberators with range very quickly, 3 starports, he didn't really get caught off guard by anything, but he just couldn't keep up with Cyril, dropping 30 or so Niduses over the course of that map. So
I think you're spot on. Obviously, I was watching the game backstage, and Sarah was never that rich, right? It always felt like, yeah, Sarah's playing a phenomenal game, and he's doing things that we expect out of him. But it also always felt that he was 1 or 2 bad decisions away from maybe Clem getting all the momentum that he would
very
need.
close.
Yeah, to maybe even finish off the game, because we know how those fights can go against that Battle Max style. Either way, this is awesome for us and for you guys, because we haven't seen these two go up against each other yet on Kings Cove. And I always love it when it comes down to one map to figure out who's going to advance to the quarterfinals and obviously keep their hopes and dreams alive of winning Challenger, the only tournament in the world. Nate, well, we've got 4 winners, okay?
Aye, aye, aye. Very true, Kev, very true. The seeding is always very nice. And the WCS points, like we were saying earlier, at the end of the year, there's always some sad boy that's like, wow, if I had finished in 4th place in like 2 of these challengers instead of getting eliminated in the round of 8, or if I'd made it out of my group, that would have done it, right? If I had just made it into the top 4 for those challengers, that could have been what I needed to push myself over the edge. And
yeah, I already spoke a little bit with Lambo as well during the WCS spring event we had in Kiev, where, like, he said he was okay with his run in the end. He wasn't super happy with his play, and he's like, you know, it just kind of, he's like, it kind of sucks that I run into Cyril this early. He's like, because I need the WCS points. Like, he's already thinking about it. He's keeping track of the rankings. He had a good performance in winter, so he picked up a whole bunch of points in the beginning of the year. You know, he's like, the challenges, man. He's like, the problem is WCS Europe Challenger is so hard. It's so hard to get these points. And he's like, Special and Neeb are just picking up those points over and over again. And then obviously you've got Sarah in Europe, and well, Sarah's already qualified because he won Spring, of course. But anyway, we'll see where this goes. Clem is going to send out an SCV. He wants to scout. For Clem, obviously, you know, he would love to get seeded into Group Stage 3 at WCS Summer. That's nice as well, because Group Stage 1 for these guys, of course, most of the time, 99% of the time, they will always make it out at the big circuit events. But those Group Stage 2 matches, they already become
cheeky.
Yeah, they already become a little more challenging. More and more good players start showing up, and you're gonna have to defeat a couple of great guys to even make it into Group Stage 3. And that's why making top 4 in Challenger is such a big deal, because you just get seeded quite deep into the tournament immediately.
Yes, very, very important. There's so much at stake. And I'm interested to see what kind of build he goes for in this game. SCV scouting, I love to see it. It's, I think, one of the best things that you can do in most of these matchups for Terran. Getting the worker out to have the vision is just really nice, right? Against Protoss, it gives you the information that you need to know whether it's a fast proxy gateway or something like that, where the natural timing is. Versus Zerg, it lets you know if they try to go for the fast third, because you can block it, but it also lets you see if the Zerg player has gone for pool first. So you don't get caught off guard. You just leave your Reaper at home. If you see that the Zerg has delayed their hatchery, then you don't have to worry about your base getting canceled or, you know, pushed back or delayed at all.
Yeah, this just seems annoying to me. If I was a Zerg player, I'd just be annoyed playing against this.
And the Hellions, too. He's going to try and buy time to get the Hellions over here to deny this base.
And we saw how close it was in the game against Cyril, right? That drone had to morph into an extractor twice, I believe. And then it just barely made it. This time the Queen and Lynx are going to push the Reaper away. Maybe a grenade?
This time, yeah, he's going to try. Well, actually kind of cleared the space there by pushing the Queen off of it. But the Hellions are going to show up at the last second.
But it's still like, I'd be annoyed. And I can also see a lot of Zerg players, probably not Lambo, because Lambo's super good. You just start messing up a little bit, right, with your macro, because you're not used to having to focus this much on the drone and the Reaper. It is like one of these things where normally you just send out the worker, you get your expand up, and that's it.
It's never meant to be that hard.
No. And it's annoying, because once again, that's just not what you want to deal with 3 minutes into the game.
Nope. Nope, it is not. So Viking is coming out. I like it. I like it a lot. There's only the one Overlord that's really out on the map, so to speak. And it does have speed, but there are maybe a couple of extra cheeky overlords by the base to be able to get. And I liked seeing this too, because sometimes you're worried about that ling speed and getting flooded, but as long as he's keeping his eyes on this and checking it to make sure he doesn't get jumped, like picking off some health off that hatchery could end up being a huge factor later on if he gets a chance to snipe the base.
And once again, it forces the queens to come out, and all of this stuff is annoying. The Reaper does go down, so that's perhaps a tiny bit sloppy, because it's always nice to absorb a couple of shots on your Reaper. The Hellions, they take real damage, and the Reaper will just heal itself. The Hellion count goes up to 4. Oh, this could be an awesome grab here by Lambo. It picks off 2 Hellions immediately. Wow, that was a disaster for Clem.
YOLOing for it. Loses almost all the Hellions that he has there. And now on the retreat, a couple of reinforcing Hellions do show up, but they're all very weak. We got one of them basically about to blow up. The other one half hit points, and even the healthy one is still a little bit damaged. So
yeah, great call by Lambo to have those lings ready, right? Perhaps expecting some sort of super aggressive play there by Clem. Clem normally waiting for 6 to even 8 Hellions. This time he tried his luck with 4 one time, and this was the one time where he really shouldn't have tried it, because Lambo was right there. It's always a bit hard to drive up a ramp though. He didn't know what was waiting for him, and that's why he ended up losing 3 Hellions very quickly.
Yeah. So we have the Liberator coming up now towards that third base. The Overlords are all very well spread out. I gotta say, he hasn't really been dropping the Overlords to that Viking, so really well done in terms of reducing the usefulness of that opening. Gets the drones away very quickly. The Queens will be able to deal with the Liberator. He's going for a Hellion, or excuse me, he's going for a mech follow-up. He has the Raven that's out as well to try and push for the creep back, but really not finding too much purchase here so far is Clem.
I just love what he's doing with his Liberator. He was being very annoying. Lambo had multiple queens trying to catch it, and he found the one sweet spot. And because of all of that, Lambo just forgot about one queen that's out in the open, so the Hellions do get a pick-off. A couple of drones do start going down. This Liberator has been so freaking annoying. It also opens the door for all these Hellbats. Where are the Banelings, Lambo? He's got no Banelings yet. A couple of them are morphing.
3 at the third that are coming over, but the drones, are they going to be able to get away? Split the Hellbats.
Yeah. I think you could just put them in multiple choke points. It's going to make it so hard to clean this up.
Yeah, just make sure that you keep them split. You know what, killing even like the Spore or something, opening things up for further harass later will be nice. Yeah, there we go. Wow. Great split on the Hellbats. Beautiful. Denying the mining. Even if the drones don't die here, Kev, he's not mining off of this expansion for a significant period of time. And now the follow-up, right? He's getting +1 vehicle armor. He's getting Magfield Accelerator for his Cyclones that are going to be coming after this.
And he's still being annoying with the Raven during all of this. It happened before already as well, while he was doing the Hellbat attack. Managed to grab 1 or 2 drones here as well, but basically 2 out of 3 bases for Lambo not mining there in a crucial phase in the game where you want to really snowball, where you want to skyrocket to 80 workers, get all those upgrades going. 2 out of 3 bases not mining. If we take a look at the income graph over the last few, let's say over the last few minutes, look at the damage that Clem was able to do there. And that lasted for a while. That's not a tiny dip. No, you can see that actually took quite some time before Lambo finally went back to where he wants to be.
Yeah, really, really nice. Really well done. And of course, Lambo's able to get back to his mining. He's taking the 4th base, Hydralisk Den, Baneling speed, 1-1. But this is going to bring us back to, actually, that's really cute. Using that Overlord to drop creep and push it out a little bit further rather than waiting for the tumors. I really like that out of Lambo, because that's going to be a huge part of it. Cyclone Hellion really relies on bullying back creep spread, because if you're on creep, the Ling Bane can, generally speaking, deal very well with your composition. So you need to be diligent at all times. Oh my god, trying to get the sick flank. It's almost got to surround the Banelings on the northeast side. Clem, no.
Oh, that was awesome by Lambo. That was truly awesome, and that's something that Lambo really needed as well. He needed to take some momentum back. He has lost 4 queens up to this point. He has lost a lot of drones throughout this game. He needed that, and perhaps, Nate, we as neutral spectators needed that as well, because now it's truly shaping up to be an awesome match. And once again, the winner will qualify for the playoffs, goes to the top 8. The loser gets eliminated here in the round of 16.
I'm so confused, though, Kev, because you know, I can kind of get wanting a Magfield Accelerator early on. There's not, if your opponent's not building roaches, though, it's not going to give you too much value outside of trying to snipe a base, which is hard to do. I'd like to see him try to squeeze Blue Flame out earlier. Of course, we won't be seeing another game played by Clem today, but those Zerglings really got a lot of damage done, and the Blue Flame just felt a bit late. He already has Drilling Claws, but it's not like he's building Widow Mines. He's got a few. Maybe he's going to try and drop Widow Mines, but or like do a little bit of map control versus the Ling Bane. But
I think he's going to build a lot of mines, and I think it's going to be very annoying as well for Lambo, because we know that Lambo likes to go for all these run-bys that he keeps doing over and over again. He's got 2 mines out, 2 more on the way. I think he's going to probably go up to 8 or 10 mines. I really don't hate it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I'm in my brain. I always think about Blue Flame as being like the first important upgrade because there's so many Zerglings on the field.
No, maybe the order could have been swapped around, and I'm sure that Clem would agree with you on that one. But he's getting it. He's getting all the feisty mech upgrades, and this is actually going to be a really cool game. Spreading out a couple of these mines already. I like that.
It's worth mentioning that Drilling Claws costs half as much as Blue Flame, so it is easier to get out earlier too, which could be another reason why he does it.
That first mine was surprisingly underwhelming. I thought he had 2 mines here. What happened to the other one?
Didn't make it.
Once again, Lambo's setting up a little flank, guys. There are Lings and Banes in the middle of the map. He's going for it, Nate, one more time. This time there is Blue Flame, though, but Lambo coming in from every angle once again.
Yeah, he's able to clear out a lot more of the Lings, but only needs a few of those Banelings to detonate to clean everything up. And it's so hard to make that call. You're trying to judge how far you can move with your units. He's got a lot of SCVs. He did secure the 4th base at a pretty good time, to be honest. It's not like he's in an economic struggle, because the Liberators are also doing some good harass, forcing the drones to get pulled around. Greater Spire is coming in, and I feel like we're going to see from Lambo something that we didn't get out of Cerro, which is some actual late-game tech, since he's gone for Hydralisks, and he's not really doing that brawler style like Ravager, Ling Bane. He's just trying to play a very normal build, and it could get tricky, because if he's going to stick on Cyclones, if you're able to get a good amount of Broodlords, it's very hard to punch through them with Cyclones just because they have so few hit points.
So even though the fights look spectacular for Lambo, and I think they have been, he got a couple of great surrounds so far, it is worth mentioning that Clem's economy is really good this game as well,
yes.
And he has barely lost a single SCV, so he's actually able to afford a couple of losses like that. You don't want to do that over and over again, but losing that Hellion Cyclone army, not necessarily the end of the world, because he is able to replace those units quite easily, and he's still being annoying with the Liberators. I've been actually just following his Liberator control throughout the majority of this game on my own screen, and I love how annoying he is with them. He just doesn't give them up easily almost ever.
Yeah.
It's like Spores move, I'll move. Queens move, I'll move. And then he just shows up. And it's frustrating for Lambo. He's going to try it again.
And oh my god, which is not a lot of mines. He just has so many Ling Bane. After that fight, we still have 18 Banelings, 50 Zerglings.
How does this keep happening over and over again? Once, okay, twice, maybe a bit silly by Clem. 3 times? What?
Yeah, he's down about 1,000 resources lost, so it's actually still pretty reasonably close. That mine's going to get a good shot on the Banelings, but he's going to just try to get a few to the SCV line. Spreads the workers out pretty decently, but so many Zerglings are here, he should still be able to kill those workers, because there's just not enough to actually have a sustained battle against this army. The Banelings do not take bonus damage from the Hellions. They do not take bonus damage from the Magfield Accelerator. And the Cyclone's actually locking onto the Overseer. It's like, yeah, killing Overseers is nice, but you don't have anything to deal with the Ling Bane.
He's actually already sending SCVs back. Maybe that's a bit too soon, because these Cyclones are
morphing the Banelings in his face.
Yeah. I think that Lambo got a little carried away there. Like, yeah, it was awesome that he was able to breach through and pick off those depots, and then he actually got on top of the SCVs. But he did throw away quite a few units there.
And Clem overbuilt SCVs because he was trying to play that big econ game, and he's at 63, which is totally fine. That's a perfectly okay number of workers to have as a Terran. He wants to be a little over on workers, but that's not necessary because he has access to mules, and he got a lot of utility out of that Raven. He wasn't burning a crazy amount of scans either.
One thing that I did like, though, by Lambo keeping on the aggression there and sticking around in that natural is that he bought himself a lot of extra time to get the Vipers out, right? Those Vipers are out right now. They're starting to gather up some energy. And obviously, as long as you're attacking, even if it feels like you're throwing away units, he is keeping Clem on his side of the map. And he's obviously gearing up for that next phase of Zerg, where we do have the Hydras and Vipers together. But I am a bit worried because the fights have been nothing but spectacular for Lambo. They all felt like washes.
Yep.
But if you look at the supplies, you look at the numbers in this game, this is a surprisingly close game. And I have a hard time believing that every single fight is going to look like the previous fights we've seen. So Lambo's playing a dangerous game here, but now, of course, he does have the Vipers, and that should make his life a little bit easier.
When Liberator range finishes, there will certainly be a bit more opportunity for Clem to do the harass. But yeah, I'm with you, Kev. These ducks are going to make it really hard. There's just so many Hydras. unsieging all of the Liberators, and there's going to be more of them coming in, trying to get back into that position. He just has to be so cautious about the Banelings. He's Clem really taking a lot of heavy losses. He's going to try to hold this ramp. That one Liberator able to get a few shots off helps, but there's just nothing here that's going to be chonky enough to just stand and deliver. So the Hydras are going to be able to make ground as long as they're A moving forward. And some more Widow Mines are going to come out to try and help stop him from pushing forward. But more and more SCVs continue to fall. Now he's starting to get into the danger territory. Ooh. Next couple Liberators finish, though. This is where that range is really nice.
Yeah, but Lambo just did such a good job in avoiding that planetary fortress at all costs, right? He just kept running by it. He's like, nope, I know that's going to be very hard to break. I don't even want to break it. I'll just keep going for your third over and over again. He gets really those depots. Yeah, and I actually felt that Clem was doing a good job with his micro and did a good job in avoiding those banes for as long as he did, but it felt like the swarm was never ending. Just excellent decision making there by Lambo, I think.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was questionable about like his fast drilling clause earlier, but I feel like if he had gotten a good more, it's like one of those games where you want to have like 7 factories, I feel like, but he only has the 5 because he went 3 starport, and you know that's also great. Like Liberators are really good. It's just he's really riding the struggle bus here. The Ling Bane has been the, no pun intended, bane of his existence in this game.
Clem is indeed in the danger zone right now because he cannot afford to lose these units anymore either. He's lost so many SCVs and he's still rebuilding them, but you could say that he is broke as a joke, nowhere near maxed out, hovering around 145. He needs an awesome fight right now and probably prioritize indeed the bottom side here a little bit. How many Vipers do we have in the mix? This time it's only 2 Vipers, maybe he can pick one off. It's all about the Liberators here, Nate. Can they save the day?
And they are going to try. Needs to immediately re-siege or pull them back. They kind of shoot a few times at the Vipers, but the Cyclone Hellion, they are really able to get shots off because the Hydralisks were shooting the Liberators. Oh my god, any Viper kills here are huge. He's actually killed all the Vipers. This is really important because the ranged Liberators as well that are trying to do harass, the Vipers are the only real counter that he has to that. He has a Spire, but he hasn't been building Corruptors, and he probably doesn't want to against this army either if he's not going to go into Broodlords.
It's really crazy what kind of an impact even just one Liberator can have there, right? Like that one back Liberator just sat there forever, and it truly felt it made Clem's life a million times easier because he's like, yeah, how deep do you want to go? How much further do you want to chase my Hellions and my Cyclones? Because this Liberator will keep on firing. You said it, the Viper count was low, sure, but it's just that single Lib was phenomenal there. And I also kind of love that Clem finally realized what was happening. He's like, it's not about keeping my fort base alive because he's clearly not attacking my fort base.
Yep.
So he kind of shifted his priority to keeping the ramp safe, and that's why this fight went so much better for Clem.
Yeah, he's going to abduct the Liberator in now. Could actually get away there, at least force another abduct, but nope, he's going to be able to escape.
What an awesome game. Once again, the winner makes it into the quarterfinals, and it felt that Lambo almost had it, but that was finally a fight that didn't really go his way.
Clem has fought his way back into this game. Securing this 5th base is going to be the turning point where he will complete his recovery if he gets this 5th planted down.
The Lib harass has been so good, by the way. He's been doing this throughout all these battles. He has denied so much mining of Lambo. He has picked off drones left and right as well. I don't really understand why Lambo never had like 1 or 2 Corruptors trying to keep those bases safe. Like I know
now he has 2 coming out, but yeah, you're right on. Cyril was pretty hesitant to get Corruptors as well versus the ranged Liberators. It wasn't until he was starting to take some serious damage that we even saw him start Spire. Oh, getting caught, trying to go back to his base. This is really important. Cannot afford to lose this army is Clem. And a couple of fungal growths are going to hit everything. This could be the decisive moment for Lambo, but he's going to pull back. Oh man, I think if you're Clem, okay, the creep isn't there, but that's really nerve-wracking because the command center only just started to turn into a planetary fortress. There was an opportunity there for Lambo to try and end it immediately, but now there's time for Clem to repair his army and also get the Liberators sieged up, get the planetary fortress done. And honestly, I don't mind the idea of him trying to like throw some buildings there. Corruptors, by the way, finally against the Liberators.
No, but you're right. Now it's a planetary, and we've seen it before. Lambo keeps avoiding the planetaries because he knows it's incredibly hard to break with Hydra Bane. You know, a couple of Liberator seats up. By the way, those mines I also felt is kind of what scared Lambo there, right? Because the fight, the fungal was great, fantastic, but the explosions of the Widow Mines were pretty big as well. And I think that Lambo at one point became a little bit hesitant. He's like, maybe I should be careful, right? Like I can't keep eating these mine shots to the face like I'm currently doing. And that now obviously allows Clem to finally secure that base at 6 o'clock. And we've still got a game, and this is truly anybody's game. Like, obviously, you could say Lambo has all the units that he could wish for. He's getting extra air upgrades as well, and he's gathering up more and more energy on the spellcasters. But against all these Liberators, Clem can absolutely do it here.
Yeah, well, this game looked a little bit dark for him earlier, but he's really done a great job of recovering even that little Hellion harass once he realized he couldn't get there. Oh, you know, this is kind of funny. The Greater Spire has been done forever, and he's gotten most of his upgrades off of it, but Clem just scanned and saw it like wiggling and jiggling, and now he's starting to build Vikings and Thors. I love Thors. I think Thors are amazing in like, any composition versus Zerg, but be careful about the Vikings. You don't want to get baited into building too many of them. There's only 2 Vipers, and there's only 2 Corruptors. So he's not actually going Broodlords. If he makes an overcommitment to that anti-air, thinking that there's a big Broodlord wave coming, well, then the Hydralisks are going to have a field day.
And these armies are starting to get awfully close to each other. There are still a few Hellions on the right top side trying to be annoying, but there are multiple Spine Crawlers keeping this base safe. So I don't think he'll get too much, but still is able to find more than a handful of drones there. Well done. Lambo is sharking around. It feels like Lambo is kind of eager to fight. I feel like this game has been going so well for me, and it kind of has been, but Clem is just being like the ultimate cockroach in this game, and he will never say die. And he keeps rebuilding all of those SCVs that he has lost over and over again.
I like this army a lot. There's really not a lot of Vipers. Only 2 is not really going to be enough to deal with this. If he pushes forward with the Liberators, and just keeps that big coverage zone, the depth of that is going to be impossible to attack through.
With 9 lips, there is really a lot of potential for Clem. Lambo is already kind of spreading his army, clearly wants to get an amazing fight, and Clem is like, no, I'm actually okay with just frying some drones over and over again.
Even with 3 Spine Crawlers at this base, Hellions run in, 13 drones die, can't explain that. Well done.
Obviously, with you know, the game slowing down a little bit over the last few minutes in this game, even though there's a lot of army movement and they are kind of sharking around, looking for opportunities, it hasn't been as bloody and messy as before. So Lambo does actually have a pretty big bank, but don't be too fooled by these numbers. Like, I know it looks crazy, but if they have an all-out fight where they both pretty much lose everything, those banks can disappear very, very quickly.
Yeah, so we have the Hydras and Infestors trying to catch the army out of position. Going to throw a Neural Parasite onto the Thor as well. And the Thors do pretty well against the Cyclones in terms of their damage output, but there's so much support here that the Infestors and Hydras get bullied back immediately.
This Clem's army is sick, and he's doing a really, really good job in controlling it as well so far. And it just feels like it's getting scarier and scarier. And I look at Lambo's army, I feel like I'm looking at the same army as I looked at 12 minutes ago.
We are.
Yeah, and that kind of got the job done against Hellions and Cyclones. But against all these Beasley units...
I love that he got the Thors, though. And even if it was because he got jebaited into thinking there were Broodlords coming, Thors are really good against these armies. I mean, obviously they're going to be able to deal with Lings and Banelings with all the support. They can kind of take the hits because they have so many hit points. But the 11 range for the single target, the Viper's abilities all cast off of like 9 or 10 range. So the Thors will actually insta-zone all the Vipers away that get too close, but Thors also kill Hydralisks in 2 shots. So they're not even bad at trading against those units. So everything kind of synergizes really nicely in this army. Of course, the Thors are slow, but with this many Cyclones, Hellions, and Liberators around them, they're not worried about the Infestors as much. Big counterattack.
I love it.
Nice.
I think this is very smart by Lambo. Lambo realizes he's not going to win a straight-up fight. What he can do is try to pull Clem apart. Maybe these Banelings can get the job done here. A couple of Liberators getting sniped as well by these Hydras. Can he get the planetary?
Oh, he does!
Yes, but at the cost of everything.
Well, he has 6,000 minerals and 4,000 gas, so I'm not going to say that that's the end of the world. He cleans up a base that didn't really have any resources left, so most importantly, he didn't get on the production. So Clem is still okay.
Exactly, that's what I think that would have been the key there. It would have been okay for Lambo to lose all of those units if he can actually get like 40 Zerglings with plus 3 upgrades and Adrenal Glands in the main base as well. You start picking up reactors, add-ons, be really annoying and truly scare Clem. I don't think Clem got that scared there. Like, yeah, he lost the planetary. Well, 2 seconds later, he landed the new command center there. Man, this, oh my god, Nate, you gotta love this as a Terran nerd. This looks like Terran poetry to me.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's not July yet, but with this many Liberators, freedom is surely starting to ring on King's Cove. He tries to find a base in the top left. There is nothing there. One thing that Lambo's done a very good job of, though, the creep has not really disappeared between the where the front line is and where his expansions are. It's been very hard for Clem to move out. As a mech player, ideally you'd like to set up this beautiful field of Liberators outside of a Zerg expansion. But right now he's just setting him up on, well, I mean, more or less random spots on the map, positions he's trying to take. But at some point, something's got to give. Like Clem will win this game with a very powerful, efficient army if he can siege a position where he forces Lambo to attack into sieged Liberators.
So I've got a question for you. What would you like to see out of Lambo here? More of what he's doing, or switch it up?
It's really hard to say. There's not a whole lot of stuff that's very good against this. The counterattacks are really the big play. Like YOLOing on this is nice because he has money.
Yeah.
But like if his infestors get caught, that's really bad.
Yeah, he's got money, but I think that money is a bit deceiving, man. These are some very, very expensive trades.
I don't think there's a whole lot you can build as a Zerg that's going to be good against this. Honestly, like you need to get good counterattacks.
What about some Nidus networks? Wouldn't that be a possibility?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah. Go for like a swinging overseer around, and if you can get onto the production, that would be the biggest thing, right? But parasitic bomb is good here too. Liberators can kind of tank it, but it does help soften this.
Okay, a lot of Banelings just finished up. The Liberator's not really sieged up. Maybe this is Lambo's moment finally. I feel like he's doing this with the reinforcements, but he's picking up a lot of very important units. A few more Liberators survived, but most of them went down. I think that was the best fight Lambo was ever going to get, and he's going to clean almost everything up, Nate.
Yeah, and really well done. Both players have completely spent their banks. So this is where it gets interesting, is it's not anymore a situation where we can kind of throw stuff around, where we're looking at people with tons of money. The gas bank is actually really good for Clem. All he needs to do is just make sure he continues to mine minerals, and he's going to be able to keep pumping his forces out. Okay,
he's actually only now morphing the command center into a planetary on the bottom side. Both players spent all of their money, but Lambo had a lot more of that than Clem. This also means that Clem still has a lot more money to freely mine on his side of the map. I've been keeping a close eye. That's a good Fongo, grabs a couple of Cyclones. I've been keeping a close eye on the units lost resource tab, and for a while they were dead even, right? Like 33, 34k. At this point, Lambo has lost 5,000 resources more than Clem.
That starts to matter when the map gets close to mining out, Kev. There's only a few bases that we haven't really seen touched, and they're both in that southwest side. That base north of the natural is going to be really hard, I think, for Clem to get, because Lambo's had that area secured for so long, but tries a little Hellion run by. Would have liked to see Transformation Servos. I think that's an important upgrade to have if you're going to harass with the Hellions. Building armor, actually. I would have liked to see the building armor and maybe even turret range to keep the just so the planetary can just be that much better at defending.
So I've been loving this game, and I think that both players have made a bunch of great plays so far. But if I'm Clem right now, I'd kind of chill down a tiny bit, you know? Like, your army supply is not where it's supposed to be.
Focus on getting the economy where it needs to be.
Exactly. Like, he's got the bases and he's got the mineral line, so it's not that he needs to make a play. I think at this point, and it feels very uncomfortable in general for StarCraft players to be like, should I just sit here? Like, yeah, sometimes actually the best thing you can do is just sit there. And I think right now Clem should just take a chill pill for a split second and build up that army. Because we saw how much trouble that army caused Lambo. And Lambo won the fight, guys, but that was a bit deceiving because he won that fight with an insane amount of reinforcements that streamed in during the middle of that fight, and he was able to kind of dwindle that army down. You know, he picked off a couple of units, picked off a few more units, and eventually he won sort of the big on engagement.
I'm worried now, though, Kev, because there's a couple of things to keep in mind. We finally have Broodlords coming out, and there's going to be 8. There's only 1 Thor. The Cyclones, with the number of infestors on the field, Cyclones are not going to do anything versus the Broodlords. It's going to get slaughtered. And there's just a couple of things you were talking about. He needs to slow down, calm down. He's at a command center, like close to finishing, that got stopped building, like, I think like maybe 5 or more minutes ago by his like 4th base. He's just sitting there, right? Could have been another orbital to keep his income going back up. Like, there's some things where it really seems like he's getting stressed, and
I do want to point out,
recognize the Broodlords and start building Thors again.
Well, he's got 4 starports as well, so you can maybe start building some Vikings. I know that's dangerous. I know, Nate. I know you don't like Vikings, but still something to put out some damage.
Yes. You're correct there. Yeah. Honestly, the Liberators might not be too bad at killing them. But I think we're going to see Infested Terrans get thrown down to deal with the Liberators whenever the fight happens, or some cheeky neural parasites on the Thors if he gets them.
So since Clem is almost maxed out right now, what would you say? Maybe get rid of a couple of the Cyclones, try to go for a drive-by somewhere, free up a little bit of supply to replace them with more optimal units against?
Yeah.
It seems like he has faith in the army, don't they?
Yeah, maybe try to make a bit of, like, peel some of it off towards, like, the natural, like, the area, because everything is so focused in the northeast now for Lambo. Like, fighting this army head-to-head is just going to be really hard. 11 Infestors, like, whatever tries to fight. Because nothing has range to deal with the Broodlords, the Infestors will be able to fungal if you get in range of the Broodlords. So with a fungal and the Broodlord volleys, the Cyclones are going to die really fast. And even though there's only 9 Banelings, that with the fungals, the Hellbats are not going to be able to punch through everything themselves. And there's also a lot of Queens here to transfuse, but here we go. And the Liberators are all going to siege up. Infested Terran's not really coming out just yet. Actually, solid depth. There's the big Infested Terran bomb, and if he can push this back, those rocket launchers are going to obliterate the Liberators as they all come out, and that's what I'm talking about. Lambo starts to really gain some ground, kills everything. And Clem, he does not have a whole lot. Look at that, even used Neural Parasite just to pull a Cyclone back so he can kill it. And now all he has are 9 Cyclones and 6 Hellions. Oof, ouch, owie. And
that was a really funny fight. Oh, that one Cyclone is actually going to be able to pick off the hatchery. So that's quite nice as well, especially because Lambo's not maxed out at this point. So that maybe gives Clem some more time to rebuild an army. That fight started off really funny because if you look at supply, Lambo's supply plummeted in the first few seconds of that fight because there are like 8, 9, 10 Liberators just firing away at everything. But at one point, the Libs start going down, all of the Infested Terrans show up, the Broodlings on the ground, and then suddenly it's Clem's supply that's dropping, and Lambo doesn't lose a thing anymore. So pretty funny fight.
Yeah, this army builds a bit faster than most mech comps. It's not bad, but you need to get the Thors up that command center. The world's saddest violin is stuck inside of there.
It's just been sitting there forever.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, why would he look over there if he's not attacked? Okay, finally. I was going to say, that command center's been, it's been a while. I think I noticed that at like minute 25. But we got the Thors coming out. Oh, this fungal's really big. 3 Liberators are going to die from nothing. Everything else that dies is cherry on top, but the Liberators are really what's supposed to have sustain. They're the highest hit point unit in his army, as funny as that sounds, until the Thors come out.
I think at this point it's a bit of a guessing game for Clem as well, right? Like, we see all the numbers, but he clearly has no idea how rich Lambo is. He's like, maybe what I can do here is crippling damage. It wasn't really the case. Instead, he lost a couple of very valuable units that he desperately needed to defend against this massive army. There were a couple of extra Queens were produced as well after the previous fight. He made 6 Queens at once. And yeah, Clem is absolutely in a lot of trouble here on King's Cove.
As the support units die as well, like, Thors are really good on their own, but the Infestors are still all at full energy. So he has enough to Neural Parasite every single Thor. And of course he can throw Infested Terran bombs, but there you go. And you know what the Thor's really good at? Killing the Liberators too. So there you go, GG, well played. Lambo is going to advance in 2nd place from Group C after a grueling match. Very, very well done. It's really hard. One of the things I love to see is in like some of those battles. It's so hard to like call like what should you do? What's the right choice to make? One of the coolest things that I've seen done is if you get transformation servos, if you can turn just a couple Hellbats, they actually destroy the Infested Terrans with the AoE really well, because the Zergs usually throw them all in one big clump. Because the Liberators are what's supposed to keep the Infestors away from your Thors, your Cyclones. The Liberators keep the Queens back a little bit, and then you can kind of get up front and try to hit some of those Broodlords with your Cyclones, if you're going to use Cyclones, or Thors, really, to be honest. But just very well done engagements. It's what you said. It's the engagements. Every single fight, despite all the harass, like, it looked good from Clem, but every fight was just like a wash for Lambo.
Yeah, especially the first 3 against just Cyclone Hellion. But I think it was just an awesome game. You know, it's very easy when we analyze those 8 or 9 minute games where something went wrong for a certain player or didn't scout, lost too many drones.
It was a great game.
This is one of these games where it's just like, that was an awesome game by both of you. Thank you for it. And of course, there were plenty of things that went wrong, perhaps even on either side, but just a lot of good plays being made as well on both sides. I really love how Lambo, where normally it's always that siege on the fort base and Banelings try to blow the planet, he's like, no, I'm ignoring it. I'm just running into the back of your third base over and over again.
Really, really good, too.
Yeah, because his armies didn't look that impressive, and there is zero chance that he would have done anything with those armies if he would have fought near a planetary. He's like, nope, completely skip it, completely ignore it. And with that, he even avoided the Liberators the first 2 times he did it as well. So I thought that was a really smart call by Lambo. But overall, I just really enjoyed the game.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, the usage of the Liberator range as early as Clem has been using it in his games was really nice, and just, yeah,
and I gotta
it was
say,
a struggle.
That army, when it was sieging up a couple of times in the middle of the map, I was like, is this army ever gonna fall? Like, how do you engage this with the units that he currently has? But it wasn't like a full-on fight. It was kind of a rolling fight, right? Like a fungo from down to, from far away. And then a couple of units went down, and the Hydras, they find 1 or 2 libs, and they're not ready yet. And then suddenly with like 20, 40 extra banelings, he just went for it. I thought that was really cool, because it's very easy to mess up against that army. And then even if you fight with a Remax, you might still not get the job done. So I thought it was awesome.
So tough match there for Clem as he's eliminated, but that does do it here for Group C for WCS Europe Challenger. As we're going to take another look at everything that we've had. We have WCS America Group C coming up next. This was the results as we saw. Cyril obviously wins 2-0, 2-0, gets out of his group, no trouble whatsoever. Had a pretty good struggle game with Clem on King's Cove, but didn't really ever seem like he was in too much danger. And Lambo gets out, so 2 Zergs make it out for Group C. Coming up next, we're going to be going into WCS America Group C. Should be fun. We got some new challengers coming up. Some players that, well, I'll be real with you, I've never commentated or seen a game of Crucial Nug.
Same.
Very
absolutely same. That doesn't happen. Maybe he's got some like hidden accounts on the ladder that we are more familiar with, but all right, surprise me, it should be fun. I'm personally really looking forward to Vindicta. I think he's an awesome Terran. I've been bantering with him a lot lately, but I just think he's a great dude. Obviously, maybe not a favorite going into this group, but I think like a Vindicta Silky series that could actually be very feisty.
It's going to be a good gut check to see what shape Neeb is into, I think, because he should roll this group, but there is... the NA magic could happen, the meme magic, as it were.
Maybe somebody typed something in the chat and it went so fast that Neeb missed it once again. And
gotta be careful.
You never know.
So that's coming up next. We're going to go to a quick break. When we return, WCS America Challenger Group C. We'll be right back.